Okay, next up is Mike Gehard.
Gehard.
Sorry, I didn't know that.
That's okay.
Who's a friend of mine, so I should know how to pronounce his last name.
Nobody pronounces that one right.
Yes. Who's going to speak about structure in software design and where exactly it comes from. And Mike is a Boulder resident.
Yes. So any questions about Boulder, let me know. I can answer
He's
them.
your guy.
Or whatever. All right. I'm going to actually start a timer for myself just to make sure that I don't run over because I've been known to chatter on. Let's do this really quickly. All right, so we have 5 minutes. Okay, software structure. So this has been an idea I've been tossing around in my head for quite some time. And LambdaConf kind of forced me to write it down, at least 5 minutes worth of it, so that's kind of nice. You ever feel like your software is like this? It starts as this really beautiful barn, and then over time it just kind of sags and sinks and sags and sinks, and then it ends up like this, and then the next thing you know, it's falling over. So I have a hypothesis about why this happens, and you all are here to tell me whether or not I'm crazy, which is why I'm giving a 5-minute talk and not a 30-minute talk on this, because I think it's still, there's something here, but I'm not quite sure what it is. So, but first we're going to take a little detour. We're going to talk about this. Does everybody know what this is? What is it? It's a testing pyramid. So we all, well, some of us, maybe all of us, write tests. And when you write the testing pyramid, you want a good base on this thing. You want a bunch of unit tests, really small packages, gives you a really nice base to build these integration tests. It's in quotes because ask 5 people what an integration test is, and you will get 6 different answers. And then this idea of an acceptance level test, which is, I think of it as user facing. So as a user, when I perform these actions, this comes out the end, really to make sure that stuff's not broken. But if that test fails, it really doesn't give me a whole lot of information of where it's broken. It's just like, you just don't go to production with this stuff. So know and love this. I firmly believe this is the case. If you don't agree with this, then the rest of this talk's going to get interesting. But let's just assume we all agree on this. If you end up like this, you've got problems. Anybody worked in a big Rails application with lots of cucumber tests in it that takes like an hour and a half to run? Yeah, this is what happens, is we make choices based on the costs and the benefits of the different layers of the tests. So unit tests are great, they run really quickly, but you can still have broken code if all my unit tests pass. Integration tests, we're going to leave those out because, again, 6 different answers, 5 different people. Acceptance tests are great for telling me whether or not user-facing behavior is broken, but again, doesn't tell me what's wrong specifically. I got to look at my unit tests for that. So we want to avoid stuff like this. So we're going to take a detour back to software structure. I have a hypothesis that there's a triangle for software structure. These are the 4 layers. There may be more, there may be less. We could talk about this over dinner if you'd like. So the bottom is the language. The next one up is a framework or lack thereof if you're a library kind of person, or I'm going to write all my own thing. Topic for discussion, not long enough to talk about that. This whole next notion is team process and then actually individual developers. And you can split this in half. So the bottom half of this triangle is technology. The top is humans. Technology easy to automate and check. Humans not so easy to automate and check. If you want to think differently, I'd love to hear about it. So let's talk about the language. So it's the foundation of the app. The wider that base is, the more structure you can add there, the better off you are. I like to think it builds a structure for the foundation, but you have to remember you might only need so much foundation. So if you're writing an app that is Basecamp, Rails is probably the sweet spot for that. If you're writing medical devices or airplane or financial systems, maybe Haskell is the language you want. So you have to pick and choose how much structure to add that doesn't get in your way. Always plan for more, because if you start with Basecamp, it's going to end up financial. So you always want to add in some slop there that it's going to get bigger. The problem is this is really hard to change. So Martin Fowler always says you want to put off engineering decisions as long as you can. This one is really hard to put off because if you don't pick that, it's really hard to get started. So you just have to do it, pick it, move along. Framework or lack thereof. How much do you need from your framework? So again, if you're building a smaller app, you might not need a bunch of framework support. Does your framework provide too much structure? So you can actually start to pen yourself in with these frameworks. Does it provide the wrong kind of structure? So anybody following the Rails community these days, active record seems to be the whipping boy of the community, whipping person of the community. It can add the wrong kinds of structure. I firmly believe that the active record pattern is the wrong structure if you were building a big application. Unfortunately, getting rid of that in Rails is super hard. Does it prevent you from adding your own structure? So again, Rails. Adding another layer in can be tricky in Rails. You can go to engines, but it gets to be a huge pain in the butt. Process, humans. So we're talking TDD, code reviews, and pair programming. A little bit easier to automate because I don't have a compiler, but I have the rest of the team to help me stay in line with this stuff. So I have teammates. We pair program. So I have someone sitting next to me the whole time kind of type checking me. If you're doing code reviews, you're getting that framework. Oh, look, there's 5 minutes. I'm almost done. It's a little bit slower, but you're still getting it. And if you're doing TDD, you again have some structure that is automated to help you with this structure. If you're relying on your individual developers, I'm going to go on a limb and say you've lost. You end up like the barn, simply because it's so hard to type check. If you get a really good developer, they might add their own structure and discipline. But if you don't get a good developer, or someone gets lazy or sloppy, which we're all known to do, you end up getting an imbalanced triangle. So it's a little trickier to enforce that. But you can be much more agile with this structure because you can change people a lot more quickly than you can languages. So try not to end up like this. So some takeaways. Only add as much as you need, but allow for growth. Each type of structure has costs and benefits. So weigh those as you think about it. Be conscious of the decisions you're making. And failure to consider these costs and benefits can hamper a project. Thank you very much.